What's going on, everyone? Dots Gaming here. Today I'm bringing you all my updated character tier list for Apex Legends Season 4, with Revenant now joining the fray and a couple of legends getting some buffs and some nerfs. I think the tier list has shifted ever so slightly, not a crazy amount, but ever so slightly going into Season 4. Some legends have moved up, some legends have moved down. But I want to talk about how I ranked all of the legends in Apex and why. The video that I made for Season 3 was received really well. Overall, people seem to agree with what I had to say. But we're going to be making a brand new one for Season 4. And guys, just remember that this is looking from a ranked perspective. This is, you can play any legend in public matches and do perfectly fine. You could also even probably get to Predator on any legend. Some are going to be easier than others, but it can absolutely be done. But it is a fact that at the higher tiers of ranked, some legends are simply better than others. And today I want to just rank them and how I think they do in a game of Apex. So we're going to start with our S tier legends, moving all the way down to C tier. So starting with our first S tier legend, we have Pathfinder. Pathfinder is just... he's one of the best in the game, man. He's got absolutely insane movement with his grapple. It allows him to move around the map, better than anybody else. And his zip line is really, really good for relocating your team when they're in a tough situation and you want to escape. Team mobility is just one of the biggest things that you can bring to an Apex Legends team, and Pathfinder does it better than most legends in the game, which is why he is one of our best at an S tier legend. Our next S tier legend is also going to be another movement focused legend, and that is going to be Wraith. Wraith, even with her nerf, she's still one of the best legends in Apex. Her Q allows her to shift into the void and not take any damage for that time. It makes it really handy for her to escape really bad situations, so a Wraith player can play incredibly aggressive. And she has that get out of jail free card. Like Pathfinder has his grapple if he gets stuck in a crappy situation to get out. Wraith has her Q where she won't even take any damage. Pathfinder can still be shot while he's grappling, but Wraith just can phase out and get to safety very easily. Her ultimate, even though it was nerfed, is still very good. Again, team mobility is such a great thing to bring to an Apex Legends comp. And when you use her ult and you move through the different portals, you can't take any damage while you're moving, which is a really, really nice thing to have. And, Wraith can still Q outside of the zone or through a hot area while she has her portal up, and then place it down when she gets to her destination. And the Q ult combination allows her to get to places safely to place that portal. You won't get the double speed boost anymore, but I think even regardless, she's still worth picking up, and she's still one of, in my opinion, the best legends in Apex Legends. Our other S tier legend is no longer Lifeline, but is now Gibraltar, who's basically also Lifeline. Gibraltar has just gotten buffed and buffed and buffed and buffed. And with all of these buffs that he got in Season 3, with he now having fast res underneath the dome shield and just all the other buffs he's received, he is without a doubt an S tier legend. The gun shield makes him incredibly tanky when you also couple it with the fact that he has the fortified passive. You combine it with the fact that you get fast healing when you're in his dome, fast rezzing when you're in the dome, and the ultimate is really good for third partying and or engaging fights. Gibraltar just brings an absolute boatload of utility to a team and is why he is the third S tier legend we have. He's basically just Lifeline, but better nowadays too. So that's why he is an S tier legend. Our first A tier legend, though, is going to be Lifeline. So Gibraltar moved up and Lifeline moved down. I moved Lifeline down because I just don't think she brings as much as Gibraltar brings nowadays. I mean, he has her passive basically bundled in with his Q. She still does bring the healing drone, which is nice that you can heal yourselves up without needing to use any syringes. And her ultimate is good for keeping your team defensively topped off in terms of armor, attachments, and some extra heals. But I think she's just kind of outshined by Gibraltar right now. But she's still a very good legend nonetheless, which is why we have her in the A tier. Our next A tier legend is going to be Caustic. Caustic is a fantastic legend for holding down an area. His gas is such a nuisance to enemy teams. You can literally lock down such a huge area with the caustic traps. I find him to be like a more offensive Watson, because you can even take his ultimate and use it as a good, similarly to how you would use Gibraltar's ultimate, as a good third-party tool or an engage tool when you're going into a building. So he does have that going for him. You just do need to be careful that if there's a Watson held up in that building, that her ultimate will absorb yours. So do keep that in mind. But his gas canister traps, especially if your teammates have digi threats, are just, they're killer to enemy teams. They take lots of damage. They're slowed. They can't see. A caustic can really make an enemy's team life hell, and that's why we have him as an A tier legend. Our next and final A tier legend is going to be the other side of the coin, and that's going to be Watson. Watson is one of the best legends for holding down a building, similarly to caustic. Her fences can be placed all over a building so that you can really lock the whole thing down. They slow enemies, deal a minor amount of damage. They let Watson know when someone has passed through them, and also her ultimate is so good for holding down a location, recharging your shields, and absorbing incoming grenades. She's just amazing for holding down a building and really good for that high-tiered gameplay, which is why we have her as an A-tier legend. Now, moving into our B-tier legends, we have a new one in the B tier, and that is going to be Bloodhound. I do think Bloodhound's buff was enough to push him up into B tier. You know, when he actually knocks down legends as opposed to having to kill them, he will also get that nice big extension on his ultimate. So Bloodhound is a much better legend now due to his buff. I still do think his Q, the duration on how long the enemies are kind of pinged when he senses them with his Q, it needs to be longer in my opinion, just due to the fact that his Q does kind of give away his position, so that it does give him a little bit of a disadvantage there. So I do think that that duration could be longer, but the buff to his ultimate, allowing him to be in it even longer, you know, I think helps justify the cooldown that it has, and I just think he's a much better legend now than he was last season, which is why we've moved him up into B tier. Another legend that got a nice amount of buffs that I think is also moved up into B tier is going to be, or he actually was in B tier last season, but I think I should have made him C tier, but now he is definitely B tier, and that is going to be Crypto. They have given Crypto's drone some nice buffs so that it's not like you look at it and it just dies. His EMP is incredibly strong, not affecting allies anymore. It doesn't slow or kind of like an arc star would slow you an enemy if you hit it with it. His EMP does not slow allies anymore. His drone has more HP now. It's just he got some nice key buffs that I think allow him to be a much better legend for team play. And Crypto is kind of one of those legends where people either think he's absolutely amazing or he's terrible, and I think he's pretty good. If you get a good Crypto who truly knows how to use the drone, it's a really, really good benefit to the team. And I just think with the buffs to the EMP and with the drone being much stronger now, I think he really deserves a spot as a B tier legend, where he's a solid choice. He's not the best, but he's not the worst. Our next B tier legend is going to be Bangalore. Bangalore is just, I think, the perfect example of a solid character. Her smoke is really, really good for covering an escape or allowing you to loot boxes safely or res allies safely. Her ultimate is slightly like a worse version of Gibraltar's, but it's still pretty solid for that third party or to zone enemies out of a certain area. And her passive is also really convenient to help her move a little bit quicker when she's being shot at, so you can get to cover faster. The reason I just have her at a B tier is because she doesn't do anything like exceptional like a lot of the other legends do, but she is not bad by any means. She is a very, very solid choice and is a benefit to a ranked team. I just think that there are some other legends that outclass her a bit, which is why we have her at a B tier. Now, moving into our bottom tier is our C tier. I have moved Octane down to C tier. With Bloodhound and Crypto getting buffs, I just can't put him on the same tier as them anymore. I think that they bring more benefit to a team nowadays. The big issue with Octane is he's a worse Pathfinder. That's the biggest issue with him, and I think his Q needs some key buffs, and I think so does his jump pad in order to make him even close to being competitive with Pathfinder. Pathfinder's zipline is better than Octane's jump pad because the jump pad puts your team on a very predictable trajectory throughout the air. His ultimate uses a significant portion of health, and the health regen slow in comparison to how much health it takes, and his Q doesn't make him move as fast as Pathfinder can be on his zipline, which I think, or on his grapple, which I think is a huge issue. I think they need to up the speed that Octane's Q gives him. Don't get me wrong, he's not the worst legend if you just look at him in a vacuum, but I think if you compare him to the other legends that you can choose for a game, he just doesn't really bring anything to a team that's exceptional that another legend wouldn't bring something better. So unfortunately, for that reason, I do have Octane at a C tier. I do just want to say though, remember, this doesn't mean that these legends, you can't do well on them. It doesn't mean that you can't, you know, kick butt in pubs and stuff. I'm just saying in comparison to other legends, looking at it from a ranked perspective and in terms of what the legend can bring to a team. And then another C tier legend that we unfortunately have, one of my favorite legends in the game, is Mirage. I'm really surprised that Mirage and Octane did not get any buffs while they were buffing the shit out of Gibraltar. That's still one thing that really confused me towards the end of season 3, where of all the legends that you buffed Gibraltar, who is already a really good legend and being picked very frequently. When you have characters like Mirage and Octane who are near the bottom of the barrel and I think need some key buffs. The issue with Mirage, I think, is that his Q and his ultimate are just not believable enough. They kind of showed, I think, during the dummy event that they do have the tech to make the clones like act more like Mirage does, or like the actual player, that would actually help fool your opponents more. But just the very static nature of his clones, you can really sit down and it's only like, you only shoot the clone if you're not paying attention or if you're trying to look really, really quick. Like, I have gotten bamboozled myself. I've seen good players get bamboozled before, but I just think that his Q, for what it offers in comparison to, again, similarly to Octane, like the rest of the legends, he just doesn't bring enough. His passive is also really not that good. It's kind of useless. I think that it needs to, if they want to do some sort of passive like that, I think they need to also increase his downed movement speed and make him invisible for longer so that he can really like go far away from where he was down, so that you really will be like, okay, where the hell is Mirage? I think his Q needs to have 2 charges on it instead of just 1. And I think his ultimate, similarly to his Q, the clones need to run in all directions and kind of try to mimic some of Mirage's movements, and I think that would just make him more believable and even make the pings last a bit longer and be more noticeable to your teammates. So Mirage needs some key buffs. He's a really, really fun legend, but unfortunately he is in the C tier. And also, unfortunately, the new guy on the block, Revenant, I have to put him in the C tier. I've played Revenant on stream for a couple hours, and while similarly to Mirage and Octane, he's very fun, he is not very good. His ultimate, I hate the way that they made it. I really don't like it. I don't like how when you use his ultimate, your shield just becomes ignored and you just use your health, and it makes you super susceptible to hammer point rounds. And you know, the second you get teleported back, like, yeah, you have full shield still, but your health is at 1 HP. It's just when you read the ultimate, it doesn't work how you'd expect it to. The way that I think his ultimate should work is, I think it should be that when you use his ultimate, you can even shorten the range of it if this would make it too powerful. You use his ultimate, you go in, and you fight with all of your shields and your health and everything, and when you would die, you just get ported back to the pillar, you know, his totem, with 1 health. That's how I was expecting it to work. When they were like, okay, so Revenant's totem will save you from death, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna have my shields, I'm gonna have my health, and if I would die, I will be ported back. But it's like this weird convoluted thing where the shields get ignored and it only uses the health, and then you get ported back with 1 health but full shield. It's just really strange. I think it should just be, you use your shields, you use your health. When you die or would have died, you get ported back 1 HP. Again, it would make still the ultimate very counterable to like caustic traps, and you'd be spawning on the totem with 1 health. If anybody looked at you wrong, you'd get shot and die. But that's how I think it should work. If it would be too powerful like that, you can even shorten the range. And then I think his Q, at least from using it, and this is just my first impressions on how it could be buffed, is it needs to be wider. It's a very, very small radius for what it does. I think the radius on it needs to be a bit wider to make it a little bit more useful. I like him in concept. I think the concept of Revenant's skills is good. It's just the way that Respawn and EA executed their skills, I think, make him really, really underwhelming, and why I unfortunately have to put him in the C tier. But guys, that is my legend tier list for Apex Legends Season 4. I'm going to put a summary here up on the screen right now, as well as like the tier list diagram. What do you guys think of my tier list, and what is your personal tier list? Who's your favorite legend this season? Let me know in the comments section below. And guys, if you liked this tier list and want to let me know, please smack a like on the video. Like I said, let me know what you think about everything in the comments below. And to keep up with more Apex Legends content, as well as other gaming content here on the Dots Gaming YouTube channel, please hit that sub button as well as the bell to keep notifications on. So thank you guys for stopping by. I really appreciate it. As always, I'm Dots Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next one.